Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the top 7, where we do a countdown of 7 things that are important to me or recommended by you guys down in the comment below. And of course, today it seemed fitting with Resident Evil 7 finally wrapping up all the DLC and all the expansions and so on, and we can start looking forward to the future, or the possibility of good Resident Evil game moving into the future. So it got me thinking, how about we do my top 7 of favorite Resident Evil games? And of course, this is my favorite. Feel free to let me know your favorite below as well, and let's have a proper discussion. So once again, since this is my favorite, that doesn't mean the games are great by any means. It just say the games have touched me in some way that kept it in my mind all the many years later. So let's get on into this and let's get to our number 7 favorite Resident Evil.
Number 7, dude.
Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. I can always hear you guys in the comment tapping away about how horrible this game was, and honestly I can't totally disagree any if it's some other Resident Evil that we shall not speak of that is obviously way worse than this game ever could have been. And of course, the game does have a problem. It's cheap, it's glitchy, it's clunky, and at the end of the day take some liberty with the fiction as a whole while staying fairly grounded, trying to fill in some plot holes that were left throughout all the Resident Evil in the Raccoon City. A little collection we had with a little bit of RE1 going into 2 and 3 as well, to the fall of Raccoon City. And for anyone who is a hardcore Resident Evil fan, it is some stuff here that you can pull out of the rubble and actually enjoy quite dearly. And then of course, playing this in co-op and seeing what your other team members do that are not controlled by people, it will just kind of hilarious and dumbfounding in a lot of ways. But overall, as a Resident Evil game that is nothing more than a junky fan service type of game, I feel like it did enough, and I had a good enough time. Any in warp moments and any with its good moments that should not have been good because of what was happening. But nonetheless, the game stuck with me, and honestly I look back on it quite fondly in many ways.
Number 6, dude.
Resident Evil Dead Aim. Of course, another game that seemed to have been somewhat looked down upon, and over time kind of seemed like it's been forgotten about in a lot of ways. But then again, a lot of the game didn't really do much to improve Resident Evil or anything to really add to the story as a whole here. But Dead Aim was a fun little PS2 game that was in some way a mix between the gun survival game from the PS1, mixed with trying to be more in line with RE4 with much more action focusedness. And also it doesn't help that the main character pretty much seemed like he a Leon Kennedy whip-off in a lot of ways. But the gameplay itself is pretty much RE4, but the second you go into combat, it switches over into fourth person, and you gun down everything under the sun. Like I said, not much to this game. The game really stick out in my mind of just being a very mediocre but super short game, with the game clocking in at a little over 2 hours if you know what you're doing. But any after my complaints of how short the game was for being a $60 product back in the day, or was it 50? I think it was 50 back in the day. It's still one of them games that just seemed like odd enough and seemed to have been taking the most chances with Resident Evil up to that point. Any more so trying to mix a PS1 style light gun game right along with the Resident Evil 4 style. But overall, any with a short length, it does make it highly replayable. And honestly, it was just cheesy little fun for what it was at the time. And a little sad of how much the game seemed to have been forgotten in the overall scheme of things of RE games.
Number 5, dude.
Resident Evil 4. What to say about this that haven't always been said a million times over? For me, Resident Evil 4 was a interesting turning point in my life of actually seeing all your games appeal on the GameCube and how hard Capcom was going into the GameCube. And honestly, at the time with the return of Leon Kennedy, since at that point Leon kind of been missing in action for a decent amount of time, while you have read some of the old Resident Evil magazine comic from the mid-90s ish. At that point, actually I gave more late 90s. But in the land of video game, that pretty much been the only Leon game up to that point, other than I believe Resident Evil Gaiden. I believe Leon was in Gaiden. But as far as seeing Leon in full 3D, this is the return of him. And honestly, when he showed up, everything about Resident Evil had changed. It come much more cheesy on purpose at that point, and in a lot of ways try to channel the charm of Metal Gear with the cutscenes, and the combat being much more focused and still walking the line of being an action game with survival horror. And honestly, this was the one game that still channeled that while living with its cheesiness on its sleeve, instead of being not really on purpose but kind of happen. And like I said, you guys have heard everyone under the sun talk about how great RE4 is, and even to this day, RE4 is still one of the best Resident Evil, even if its success is what led us down the way into RE5 and 6 as a whole. So, not all good came out of it, but nonetheless, RE4 cannot be understated of how good of a game it is.
Number 4, dude.
Resident Evil Code Veronica. Oh, this game was a system seller for me, with the game originally only coming out on the Dreamcast, with later releases everywhere else, of course. But at the time of release, the only way to get the game was on the Dreamcast. And between this and Shenmue, it was pretty much a no-brainer for me to pick up a Dreamcast. And I have so many fond memories of sitting back, playing Veronica with my brother and one of my friends at the time, trying our best to go through with a knife, try to solve all the puzzles. And honestly, a lot of the puzzles are way more difficult than they probably should have been, and a little more convoluted than they should have been. And to the point where, in my youth, I remember carrying around pieces of paper in my wallet with answers to said puzzles, just in case I ever found myself playing Veronica on a whim, which was done many, many times. And with it being a cult story, pretty much wrapping up the Umbrella Chronicle storyline stuff, it did a good job, and once again walked that line of trying to be cheesy and not being cheesy. And you could tell that with a lot Resident Evil before full-on cheese was just accepted and moved on with it. But the game still shows what a old school RE game can do, and at the same time pushing it forward with the full Resident Evil game to actually have 3D visual here and not just window background with 3D sprites or models in that case. That one was fully 3D and fully took advantage of it with its lighting and environments and just the characters as a whole, bringing old Resident Evil into new Resident Evil, and how that was done so well, spread over 2 discs and multiple characters playing as, and once again being the full witness return of another RE2 character with Redfield coming back into the play, also helped this game out a lot as well, tying it any more so into Earl and Chris and their experience with Umbrella as a whole.
Number 3, dude.
Resident Evil 3. Oh, the game is burnt into my memory for so many reasons, mainly being in my youth, sitting in my room with my friends, coming over, staying the night, and literally all we did was sit there and speedrun that game over and over again, without even realizing speedrunning was a thing at that time. But we just sat there, playing that game over and over, trying to unlock all the outfit, all the collectibles, all the endings. So the game added so much more with the availability of Nemesis chasing you around, and truly made the game really terrifying for one of the 4 times in Resident Evil history up to that point. And of course, with the multiple choices that come from fighting Nemesis, multiple characters you play as, and everything that you can unlock, this have to be easily one of the best PS1 Resident Evils out there, especially for anyone who want to 100% it and unlock multiple things and truly get rewarded for your time in it. And honestly, so much of the game is so memorable with all the set pieces and everything. The game truly show what RE1 or PS1 Resident Evil game truly can be if the work is put into it.
Number 2, dude.
Resident Evil remake for the GameCube. Going back to the GameCube here, showing it with so much Resident Evil love. And honestly, this was one of the best, and any to this day, easily still one of the best remakes ever made for any game. And the game, any to this day, still holds up in so many ways with everything that got added in the remake, all the new combat scenarios, storylines, and everything about that remake just say how much Capcom truly loved RE1 and how just doing a few things to it can still make the game great, and honestly still can easily be right there with RE3 as far as one of the best Resident Evil or local Resident Evil games to date. And honestly, this is one of them games, if you played a Resident Evil 1 back on the PS1, you need to actually play the remake, since everything in it is half nostalgic, half refreshing, wrapped in a package that is just perfect for what Resident Evil is of that time period. And overall, the game is just so memorable, and the worst case scenario would make it kind of hard to go back to Resident Evil 1 on the PS1.
Number 1, dude.
Resident Evil 2 is our number 1 game, because honestly, deep down, I can't be alone on it. This is the best Resident Evil game ever made, any now and leading into 2018. With the game having so many replayable mission here, with up changing depending on what character you play, what character do you play in what order, since the game of course have 2 characters, Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, and each of them being separated into their own discs if you were playing it back on the PS1 days. Depending on how you play this game, it's not just a distant ending because of your choices. It's literally the choices of change begin before you any start playing the game. It all began when you crack open that CD case and pick with it to play, because it drastically changed each of the characters with Leon and Claire and how the story will intertwine, and any more so depending on how you play each of them in order, any more the game come available at the end, and just not just give you another ending, but actually give you a whole new area to play in. And honestly, trying to find all this stuff and realizing this is a possibility just instantly just show how great this is, and how no other Resident Evil have ever tried it before, let alone how no other game have tried it before. And then of course on top of that, having the unlockables, the outfit, the sequence, everything about the game just scream originality on the side of game design, on the side of technology, and just how the story is told as a whole. And any with so much things randomly coming in and out, the story stays so consistent overall. And any more so with the 2 main characters easily being the most recognizable and most loved character in the Resident Evil mythos, any by Capcom and any by fans as a whole here, only closer to Jill and Chris from Resident Evil 1 in love. Honestly, it just shows how much the game actually means that the 2 characters are on the same pedestal with RE1 characters. especially from how many different characters we have had in Resident Evil over the decades. I cannot stop saying how great this is and how much honestly really need to be looked back upon and put into Resident Evil any now, and hoping at the time of the video anyway that the Resident Evil 2 remake will have the same love and polish of RE1 remake with the greatness of RE2 and with the possibility of what they can do now all the many decades later. This game could easily be right there along Resident Evil 1 as the best remake ever. But sadly, at the time of that video, Capcom haven't really said or shown anything beyond we working on it. So who knows how this is actually going to work out long term. But even if it does go bad, RE2 is still the best example of everything done right with game design and Resident Evil in that time period. And any to this day should be looked back on and studied for moving forward in the Resident Evil middle on a pure character and level and game design. So that was my top 7 Resident Evil game. Like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And also, once again, this is just my list. Feel free to let me know in the comment your list of your favorite Resident Evil games over the many decades. And feel free to explain why if you have a real reason or feel like it. Because all that information is valuable and I would love to actually read it. So, of course, I've been your wonderful host, Troy, and I will be back on Friday with another video. More than likely, maybe our top 7 games of the year, since we are coming up to the end of 2017. So, prepare for that on Friday and get your list put together as well to let me know. So anyway, I am out of here. You all have a wonderful day, evening, whatever it might be for you. If you haven't already, feel free to do the like, favorite, subscribe, hit bell, do comment, do everything else we all love to do here on YouTube. So anyway, to the next video, you all have a wonderful day, and I will catch you then. To then, see ya.